So welcome to Scrapbook Live. My name is Megan Jacks. Today is Friday, January 24th, and I have a project for you today from the Creative Memories blog. It just came out in January. It's only a couple weeks old. 2 weeks ago, on January 10th, they published this really fun layout. It has these almost like ticket-esque embellishments on it. And I actually thought when I first saw this layout that they were part of the embellishment pack that came with Noteworthy Days, because in Noteworthy Days, the embellishments, there's a lot of tags and little journal boxes, and I thought those fit in there just perfect. And then I saw the blog and it's like, oh, we're going to create those. And so I was a little like, oh, that seems like kind of a lot of work, or maybe just a little more work than I naturally think of doing when I'm just going on my own for layouts. But I think it is fun. I put some together to test it out, make sure I understood, and they actually do go together pretty quick. So don't let that part overwhelm you. And so hopefully you had a chance to get the printout. It's on my blog. There's a link in the description of the Facebook Live that we're doing right now. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, there is a link in the description below that'll take you to my website for that printable handout. All right, let's go to the overhead here and see what we've got. So here's the layout from the Noteworthy Days, and you can see those colorful little ticket stubs at the bottom. They're, I don't know, just so much fun with all the different papers. I do think when they design these blog projects, they do love to show off all the papers in the collection. And Noteworthy Days has 2 paper packs. There's lots of papers to choose from. And so for today's layout, I am going to be making some adjustments. I'm doing kind of a fall themed layout. Cody had a event on Halloween at his school where my husband and I went and helped with a project where the kids, the adults opened up the pumpkins and then the kids helped gut them and they counted seeds. And they were supposed to do other things too. They were weighing the pumpkins, they were measuring the pumpkins. It was kind of like a little science thing and learning with like math on how to do charting and take notes and things like that. So it was a lot of fun. My photos, I have some photos just of Cody and my husband, but then I have other photos that show students from the class. So I will not be, I will not be showing those photos. I have some just cardstock cut in the sizes of those photos to show you how I'm going to be using them. So they have 2 horizontal photos on the layout, and then they do have a couple of smaller square photos here too. Now remember, if you need to do smaller photos, one great way to do them is a collage style on a 4x6. These are technically 2 1/4, but you could go even down to, well, you could go to 2x2 if you needed to. And you could just make some little squares, do about on a 4x6. You can do actually 6 2x2 squares on a 4x6. You can do that through the Project Life app. You can also use Canva. If you're familiar at all with Canva, it's getting to be more and more popular with people to use. So as I mentioned, I'm doing a fall theme. And I just went and grabbed one of my fall packs. This is actually sweater weather. It was a promo pack from several summers ago. And I haven't really played much with it, but I have obviously cut up a lot of things out of it because I'm working with some scraps, which this layout actually works really good if you have just smaller pieces of paper, especially when you get into these small little pieces here. These are all like 1 by 1/8 inch. So this is a great layout to do when you have scraps. And I know we talk about like how small a scrap should I save? Well, there's layouts like this that sometimes saving even smaller scraps can be worth it. But a lot of you, I'm sure, will be just cutting these down from other strips of paper, other small scraps. You're not going to be saving 1 by 1 inch scraps most of the time. You'll have scraps that look more like this, just strips of paper. So the first thing we're going to do is I am going to be using the bright white cardstock. I liked it with this. It kept it a little bit light and airy. Sometimes fall can have a little bit of darker colors to it, and I didn't want to go too dark. I wanted to keep it light and airy. The bright white works really well for that. I probably could have done beige, but I am using one of the patterns I'm going to use is this plaid pattern, which actually has a white base to it. So I thought that would be nice. Just kind of keep the white base there. And I have to just point to you guys too. There's my cat. Oh, Kitty, bless Kitty. She took a bite out of my paper. You can't even see that. It's not going to show you, but see how she did that? So it's going at the bottom of my page. I could cut it off, but at the bottom of my page, I am going to we want to have a piece of paper that's 12 by 3¼ inch wide or tall. And that's going to cross the bottom. It does come clear to the very bottom, so it's going to cover up. And I am going to be using this, this is not the piece, this is the piece I want. I'm going to be using this twine textured paper. The other side of it's kind of a grid paper on a creamy base. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the twine side. And I like that because when you pick a color that goes here, you want to make sure whatever you're going to be using for your tickets, your ticket stubs, that will stand out against it. I kind of went with their hint here, and they use kind of a light tan color for the ticket body, and then you can see the kind of the end part there, the colorful ends. You can choose different colors. But you want to make sure whatever you're going to use for your ticket base is going to show off against your background here. And I'm going to actually be using the reverse side of this paper to make my ticket stubs. It's kind of that creamy, has a grid to it. It's going to look really nice. The other part that I'm going to use is we're just kind of going through my paper choices. I decided that my long panel here, my big vertical panel that I'm going to use, I wanted it to be the orange. I wanted to bring in some nice orange color into this because it's the color of the tablecloth. I don't think I have any pumpkins really in the pictures, but there's a lot of seeds and mucky stuff that they're messing with. So we have the orange check print here. And then here's where I struggled a little bit because I really thought that I was going to come in and want to use this pattern of this kind of like, it has the leaf icons on it or the leaf silhouettes. And it's just, I don't know, I really struggled with it. I ended up not liking it that much. So what I ended up deciding to do was use the plaid. There is a really pretty plaid in there. Now, the challenge with plaid, we are supposed to cut one wide piece of decorative paper that sits behind this orange bar, all right? And the challenge you run into here is that trying to get a plaid to line up, or sometimes there's other patterns, it's not just plaids, can be difficult because sometimes the plaid looks really good and sometimes the plaid doesn't look like I want. Like if I had done it, you can see I just have a small strip here. If I did the plaid like this, one side might look like it has all stripes. But then you come to the other side and maybe I would start to see some of the vertical pieces of the plaid. So you can see when they don't put plaid on a diagonal, you are more likely to, when you have vertical and horizontal pieces of paper, the plaid mat behind those pieces just can look off a little bit. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to get around that. And it's instead of cutting one big piece, I'm going to cut two little pieces. And then I have more control on where those are going to, what is exactly going to be exposed. All right, so you might have a piece of paper that you're able to cut the entire back to, and it's going to be just fine. If you don't, you can always cut segments of the paper and then you just adhere them to either side of this piece. All right, so you're kind of starting to see where this goes together. I'm going to just kind of follow along their directions. So I'll be coming back to this piece of paper here, but I wanted to show you the kind of the color scheme that we're going with because that's going to impact the colors that I am choosing here to do my tickets at the bottom. All right. So, and I've got those colors here. I've got the blue, I've got the purple, I've got the golden, and I've got, I have more orange. I don't think I need, oh, I needed it to be able to cut the reverse side as plaid. And I am going to be using, I think, a little bit of dark brown in here too. So I have some scraps of that I'll be able to cut to get a small square of dark brown for one of the ticket bottoms, I think. I'm not sure. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this piece to the bottom. It's going to sit at the bottom. It is that 3¾ inch tall piece that sits behind and creates a border. You could make this so that the ticket stubs go sideways. So it could be if you want those ticket stubs to be on the side, maybe you have vertical photos that you want to show off more. I will be putting some vertical photos along that large bar where they have all those embellishments. I don't need to do that. I want to actually put photos there. So the orange check, I see a question from Rita asking about it. The orange check is something we're going to talk about when we get down to step 3. It is going to be, it looks like it's 3 3/4 by 12 inches. All right, so here we've got this. The background is kind of ready to go through step 1. I'm going to set the background aside for a moment because I need to create my 7 little ticket stubs. So to do that, I've got my kind of my neutral paper here. And they tell us they want us to cut 7 1 by 1 3/4 inch strips of paper. And they do, you know, they say the Craft Dots paper, but I would recommend, in this particular case, a lighter neutral color would work really well. And then you're going to want to cut 7 pieces, a variety of colors, papers, things like that, that'll form the little square pieces of decorative colors. After they have the directions where after you make all of your tickets, you come back in with the stamping blade and you cut each end of the ticket with the stamping blade. Now, I decided it was much faster for me just to slice the entire piece of paper with the stamping blade, cut it to length, and then cut the sections, the 1-inch sections that I need. So that's what I'm going to do. I've got my trimmer. I'm going to take my stamping blade. Stamping blade does have a little bit of a direction. I am looking to just cut the stamping edge here. You could push everything to the end. That would be 1 3/4 inches. That actually might be the best way to do it. Instead of worrying about cutting the stamping edge and then cutting everything to size to that 1 3/4 inch, I'm going to go ahead and just cut it with my stamping blade. So I want my stamping blade, I'm going to have my stamping blade facing the logo here is over to the side, over to the other side here. The logo on the blade is facing to the left. I'm going to go ahead and bring this out to 1 3/4 inches, and I will go ahead and punch this. Or cut this at 1 3/4. And there we go. Now you can see I've got that nice stamping edge. I do see Tia asking why not just use the admission ticket punch, and that is a great option if you, it might work best for what you're going. The style of the ticket here is just a little bit different, a little bit fun, and maybe they're not even tickets in your mind, they're just little tabs. I'm calling them tickets because that's what they make me think of. But I'm just kind of following along with their little embellishment here rather than trying to make it work with the punch. But you could certainly use the punch if you want to. All right, so now that I've got that trimmed with my stamping blade, I need to go ahead and I need to cut these into 1-inch sections. I'm going to come down here to the bottom of my trimmer. It's personal preference. I know I've had people ask me why I do that. Part of it is because I like to just kind of gently keep some pressure with my left hand pulling that paper towards me, but you can do it however you want. You're going to cut 7 of these. So 1, there's 2, 3, 4, there's 5, 6, and 1 more, 7. You might need, I mean, doing 7 of them is because we cover up a big swath of this with that big bar that comes down. If you want to do all the way across, you might need 9 maybe or so. It looks like you may even need 10. So we got our 7 pieces. So now it's time to go ahead and cut those other pieces that have giving us the various colors. So I have a piece of the blue. There was this blue kind of a cable knit sweater. It's not cable knit. It's just a knitted texture. I'm going to go ahead. I've already trimmed it to 1 inch wide, and I'm going to trim it to 1 1/8. You see they talk about cut 7 1 by 1 1/8 pieces with a variety of colors. I'm going to cut 2 of them. I don't think I'll need 2, but I'm going to go ahead and cut 2. Then I have, well, I'm going to just tell you, I've already cut the other one. I've got some yellow. This is a golden, marigold. I actually have a couple cut with marigold. I have a couple cut with the dark purple. I think dark purple, I actually already made one of the ticket stubs with it, or one of the pieces. There's one dark purple already made up. You can see my practice one. And I also need some of the orange, and I've already got one. The orange, I went ahead and did some in the orange plaid too. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 colors to choose from. They use 7 different ones. I'm just going to use 4, maybe 5. I have somewhere, I think, a scrap of the brown that I can go ahead and cut. I'm going to just trim off 1 inch, and I'll turn it and cut it at 1 1/8. I think I'm only going to need 1 of them. I don't think I'll need 2. And now it's time to go ahead and make our ticket stub, or make the pieces together, the embellishments. So this is what we're going for. I still haven't trimmed the back end of this with the stamping blade. So what you're going to do is you are going to work from the back side. So I've got my pieces, and I'm going to go ahead and flip them over to the reverse side and just lay them out here. You want to have some tape chips available. If you have the tape chips, that's super convenient. I have some tickets already made, so I'm not necessarily going to, actually I want them all to be the same. Hold on just a quick second. Because I do want them, I think, to have the same pattern clear across. I'm trying to find the ones I cut last night. There it is. Okay, here's my 7 pieces that were all cut from the same piece of paper. So now what I need to do is I need to flip over the ones that I have not attached the color to. But real quick, before I do that, I am going to make sure I've got, so I want one that's going to be blue. I want another one, I want at least 2 that are going to be yellow, 1 that is brown, and then I think I'll go with the purple, I think. Yeah, I'm going to do purple. Maybe I won't do brown, and I'm just going to come back in with the blue. We'll see. I think that'll work. So what I'm going to do now that I've kind of picked my colors is I'm going to flip over the pieces. So I'm working on the back. We'll use the tape chips on the back to secure the 2 sides together. So you're going to want to flip them over. Make sure your 1 inch pieces are lined up to each other. Remember your colored pieces are 1 by 1 1/8. So you just got to make sure you've got them lined up correctly. All right, so I'll go ahead and I've grabbed my tape chips. Making sure they're lined up, and then put my tape chip on there. And that's going to hold the 2 pieces together. That tape chip holds the 2 pieces. And I'm just going to do that on all of the pieces here. Don't worry too much if they're just a little bit off. You don't want them a lot off from each other in terms of like the 1 inch pieces. They should be pretty close. There's always sometimes a room for a little variation of width, you know, like 1 and 1/32, which seems like it's not much, but it can kind of sneak up on you on how those sizes can really matter. All right, so one last one, and I'll have all 7 of mine made because like I said, I had 3 of them made ahead of time. All right, so now flip them back over, and it's going to be time to use our hole punch. This is a 1/4 inch hole punch. This is the single hole punch from Creative Memories. It makes a 1/4 inch hole punch, which is pretty standard. So you might already have a single hole punch available in your office supplies or maybe your crafting supplies. If you don't, it's a fun tool to have available. So you might consider putting that in your order next time with Creative Memories. You're going to want, and I don't know whether I can do this. So what I've got is, you can see here is the little flappy end. This is what holds all the pieces that pop out. I'm going to slide my paper under there, and I'm going to look kind of from the side, and I'm looking to make sure that I'm halfway down. I don't want to punch a complete hole. I want to just punch a half one. And then you turn it over and you do the other side. And don't worry if it's a little off, it's not a big deal. You want to try your best to have it be centered, but it's not a big deal if it's, a little bit off. And if you mess it up, then you just make another little ticket. I do see the question about, the corner rounder notch. And I thought about that too, but I think the corner rounder notch is a little big. I have to figure out, where did I put, well, there's my corner rounder. Let me just really quick show you, because I know you're kind of like, well, why can't we just use a quarter rounder? So let me slide this in here. And let me do it to the point where it actually will punch. Oh, that's probably the reason. Oh, the reason is because you can't use a corner rounder, because if you put it in corner rounder straight, the corner rounder doesn't really notch anything. It just doesn't go in far enough. That's why you can't do that. And if you try to use the envelope and bow creator, it wouldn't work either, because that makes a really big notch. So you kind of do have to use the hole punch. So I'm just going to go ahead and punch the rest of these. Don't rush through it. Give yourself, it's not like it's a competition to get these finished. And I'm going to finish probably before you are. If I don't know how many of you scrap along while I'm actually doing this, or you come back later. Remember, I practiced last night to make sure I knew what I was doing. So there we go. I've got my seven little pieces here. Now I am going to go ahead and grab my trimmer again, and I want to trim that end piece. Now, I want the end piece to match my front piece here, right? So I'm going to look at my piece. Let's see. Nope, it goes like this. So I think if I put my blade housing, if I put my stamping cartridge back in there, and I put it with my logo facing to the right, and I feed my paper this direction, I think it'll be okay. But before I do this, I am going to practice on a piece here and just make sure I like what it's going to do. Yes, it's going to punch it it's going to cut it the way I wanted. I wanted the little knobs, I guess, poking out. All right, so then I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to come down at the bottom again. I just want to hold it straight, and I am looking to cut off kind of bare minimum. I don't want to cut too much off. I just want it to be bare minimum. And you need to kind of push it over a little bit. There is some depth to the punch, or to the cut. If I muck it up too bad, I will make another piece. Judy's saying she's going to use the pinking blade instead. The pinking blade is kind of nice because you don't necessarily have to worry about direction. The pinking blade is pretty, uniform either direction, either or. There's a few of the blades that wave blade is, you can go either side. There's no direction to it. But stamping blade has a direction. So does Decal and Victorian blade both have a direction to them, but it's subtle. It's not nearly as obvious, I think, it's compared to something like stamping. All right, I've got all my pieces cut now, all of my little pieces. So let me go over to my piece here. Now, here's something I want to talk about, and I've never really talked about it before because honestly, I really didn't kind of think about it until last night. I had the opportunity last night because I have another sheet, a full sheet of this paper that I thought, oh, I could have my paper, this small piece at the bottom, I could have that paper going up and down. See, I could have that going up and down across the bottom. Or I could have it going side to side. I had the choice. I just needed to decide, did I really want to cut the paper here or did I want to use what I already had cut? So then I grabbed the ticket little thing, the embellishment that I had already made, and I laid it on here. All right, and it looks okay. But what I kind of noticed is I felt like the edges were kind of blending in. Part of that may have been because I do have some lights and darks to this, and this is mostly mid to light, so it's maybe blending in a little bit. But watch what happens when I put it down here on this one. I feel like the edges are much crisper of the embellishment, and that is because the pattern is going perpendicular to the edge of my embellishment. So that's something to keep in mind, when you're looking, especially when you have thinner lines to it, like a thinner stripe or a texture like this, is going perpendicular to whatever the kind of the piece you're wanting to emphasize, whether it's a matte or another embellishment. So that's how that looks. It's going to be sit down here on my the bottom. So now it's just a matter of, I'm going to just loosely place these on here because until I get my other piece in place, I've got to just kind of figure in. I do know that one's going to sit over here and it's going to be like halfway covered up. We know that. And then I'm going to have the other pieces kind of just scattered in here. The purple, I need to make sure. And this is going to give the illusion of a pattern that is going to kind of disappear under the vertical bar that we're going to put in place. All right, so now it's time to create that vertical bar. So we are done with step 2. I'm not going to adhere them on the mat until I have my other piece in place. I want to just make sure that I like the placement down here. All right, so as I mentioned before, I am going to be using this piece of orange plaid paper. And I need something that's going to go under it that's going to serve as kind of a border on either side. So this piece of paper is 3 3/4 inch wide. I need a 4 1/4 inch piece of paper that sits under it. If I was going to cut a cardstock, if I was cutting something that had that nice even pattern all the way across it, I would just do that. I'd make it easy, just cut that 4 1/2 inch or 4 1/4 inch piece. It would sit right under here. It looked fantastic. Now, the challenge I run into, as I mentioned before, is I'm using the plaid. And plaid is not even, the design when you have a plaid that is in a vertical, is not, basically not diagonal. It's like it's straight up and down or side to side on the paper, is that it can vary widely on what you'll actually be able to see that's peeking out over it. Especially this particular plaid, because it's a big chunky design as compared to a really fine detailed plaid. I've got some big colors, I've got some little, I got big lines, I've got little lines, got a lot of white space in there. So what I found out was I found a part of the plaid that I liked. I like this exposure. I've got my horizontal pieces coming in there. You can see all those colors, the blues, the purples, the orange, and the yellow. And I do have kind of that like a dark brown color running in there. So you see that it's a plaid as compared to trying to do it where it would look like a stripe. I don't want a stripe. I want the plaid. But I didn't want a big chunky piece of the blue. So I liked this little section. Now the thing is I need two sections of it. I need one for the right and I need one for the left. So I'm going to come back to that piece of paper. It's actually the reverse side of this. You can see the oranges over here. So I flip it over, there it is. Now, the key here is I need to find where this exact same pattern is. So to do that, I'm going to line up my paper on here. I'm just on my trimmer. I'm just using it to help me figure out where things are. I'm going to grab a pencil. I think I'm grabbing a pencil. I had a pencil in here and I think I ran off with it last night to take some notes on something. I will use, I guess, I'm going to use just a little pen here and it'll be fine. I'm going to take this piece of paper and I am going to slide it side to side until I find exactly where that part is on my, my design. And you might need to move it a little way. What I'm looking for is vertical pieces, and right there, I have found my match. If I slide this down, I have found now my piece blends in seamlessly. Like there it is, and then it disappears. You can't see it anymore. I have found exactly where on my pattern is my same piece of paper or my same strip. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little line, and I should be doing this with a pencil, on either side of my strip of paper at the bottom. Let me lift this up so you can see. Can you see that pencil line I put in, or that pen mark on either side? I lifted up, there it is. That's where I need to cut. And that should give me the piece of paper I need to go on the other side. Now I say this, I can do this because plaid can be flipped up and down. If you have directional paper, like trees or hearts or something like that, you might need to play with it a little bit more, but theoretically this should work. I'm going to line this up and go ahead and cut. I am going to switch over to, because I just completely messed that up, because that is, nope. Oh, is that the side? Yeah, that's the side I needed, and I cut it with my stamping blade. Oops. I think I'll be okay. Let me, or what I'll do is I'll just find it again. We'll get a repeat of that scenario. Here it is. I took out my stamping blade. I'm going to put in my straight blade so I can't make that same mistake. And I'm going to do this again, where I'm going to mark my paper. I've lined up where my paper is. I'm going to mark it and cut it. This time without the decorative blade. Now I have two pieces that match each other. All right, so now I can just adhere each one to the side. To do that, I'm just going to go ahead and run some adhesive down the edge on either side. I will use Repo adhesive. I think I have enough. I have enough space. As long as I stick to the edge, I can use my regular tape runner. I could use the mini tape runner. You guys may have gotten that as part of the adhesive buffet, or maybe you've used it before. I like the mini. It's narrow. It works really well in tight situations. Maybe when you're not ready to, you don't use a Repo or your adhesive, the precision point adhesive pen. And this is going to sit on here. I'm just coming. I don't want to see any of the chunky blue that's behind it or to this on there at all. Layering this on here. And I'll do the same on the other side. So I should have even exposure and they should relatively match each other. They're not going to be perfect because you can see that my stripes don't line up perfect. I definitely, you know, like here's the purple and you come across and that purple's clear down here. So, you know, the technique needs a little improvement, But all in all, I'm okay with that, and I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think it's like a killer in this one. So let's see how this all starts to look as we start to put these pieces into place. Okay. The decision I want to make here is, do I want the yellow to sit there? Like you can see, I've got the yellow and the blue, or the yellow is kind of under and the blue sticks out over there. They do tell us in the original here that we want this to be, and here about 3/4, this whole piece, this piece together should be about 3/4 of an inch from the outside edge. Your placement can vary depending on your photos or depending on your piece. So don't put it on there however it works best for you. Now, photo placement. These mats are cut to the same size that they show in the layout. So you can see here, I've got these ones are 5 3/4 wide by 3 3/4 tall. You can put 4 by 6s in here. It's just going to be a little tighter. If you wanted to cut your photos to that size and actually have mats, you could do 4 by 6 mats on here with those 5 3/4 by 3 3/4 inch tall photos. Give yourself that nice thin mat to kind of make it, maybe make it pop off the page a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do is I have some photos that I'm going to be using on that vertical bar. I don't have all of these embellishments. And so I'm going to go ahead and just use photos in lieu of having enough, the variety of embellishments that they had. So before I start going any further though, I am going to adhere my pieces at the bottom. You can pull the tape chip piece off if you want. You can also leave it on. About 1/4 inch up from the bottom, 1/4 inch from the side. I'll be honest, it makes me a little nervous to not use repo adhesive in this particular case as I'm lining things up. So I'm going to use repo adhesive just in case I need to come back and I need to adjust. I am not pushing these down either. I am just kind of lightly putting them in place. Once I've got everything where I want it to be, I will come back and I will put more pressure. But by just kind of laying them on there, not putting any real pressure down, I'm not forcefully making the adhesive start to work. It's just kind of lingering there. Yeah, I think this is going to come together fine. All right. There is that one on there, and then this other one's going to go over on the other side. The spacing is pretty good. It's probably not perfect, but it's not bad, and I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to say good enough. I do want to make sure maybe that seeing maybe a little variation where I wasn't quite in the middle on some of my punching, but that's okay. I'll have to look at my strips on here for my I see some comments asking if if I flip the strips around, it might work. The challenge is that I made them both identical. So the adhesive part, the extra is not, I don't think it's going to work. I just don't think I have the extra. I have to recut, which I could do. I mean, I've already cut like a million pieces out of it, but I'm not going to stress it out too much just because I'm just looking at it. Yeah, I could come in. I see what I can do to fix it. Straight blade. Make sure you're using the right blade. Vicky's like, just leave the strips. Yeah, I needed to use, I'm not using the Boo Boo strip. I'm using, well, maybe I am using the Boo Boo strip. It's going to be good. It's going to be fine. It's going to be a fix. The paper is, I have, it starts off kind of with a darker plaid at the darker strip at the bottom, and I have the darker strip over here too. So now when I put it on, it should be pretty close, pretty much the same. Those stripes will come across. So there, now we're back in business. The OCD has been appeased. I won't be looking at this later and saying, oh my gosh, look at the plaids don't match, the stripes don't match up in the plaid. Okay, so here we go. All right, let me go ahead and put this on. I have a little bit of ways to add some embellishments to this. I love the little square photos that they have of the dogs. I know sometimes it's hard. I don't know how often you guys do take the time to, when there's in layout designs, when there are smaller photos, I don't know how often you guys take the time to print the smaller photos. Sometimes it's work, especially if you don't have photos that naturally can be just cropped down really small. I mean, sometimes we do, right? Sometimes we have photos that just they can take themselves down to that size, no problem. But a lot of times I feel like I really have to think about it. I have to really make a deliberate, like go back and reprint something, which sometimes is, I don't know, not my favorite thing to do. So I'm going to show you what to do if you don't have any photos that small. All right, there we go. Okay, so I am only about a half an inch over from the side here. I don't have as much of this ticket showing. I have maybe more here. I felt like if I pushed it over to 3/4 of an inch, I think the challenge is because I'm using a white base paper on the white, it felt like that was too big of a gap. I needed it to be a little bit more over here. So I have probably a little bit more space over here than they originally have. When I crop my photos, I have not cropped my photos that will go here. I would probably leave them as just 4x6s. Rather than cropping them back down to the size they suggest, because I have room to have a little bit more width in here for sure. So even if I crop them down to only be 3 3/4 inch tall, I will leave them 6 inches wide. All right, but in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and use just a little bit of repo on here. I'm going to the sample or when I take pictures of this to include later to show you guys, I want to make sure it looks kind of finished. Even though, because I can't show those photos later. I can't show the photos from the school, the class. So I'm going to be using the cardstock base or the cardstock mats. These pieces are 3 1/4 inch wide, which works well on the 3 3/4 inch width chunky mat that you have here. I am going to go ahead and adhere some at the top, or one at the top and one at the bottom. And what I'll be able to do here is I have some letters that are going to come in here. All right. So I have used my favorite little dies to punch out the word fun. It's going to say pumpkin fun. So let me go ahead using 2 different fonts because that's just how I roll. So I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive on the back sides of my letters. I have a 3-letter word, so I'm going to start with the middle letter, which is U, and I will put that as best that I can gauge in the middle. I could probably use my 0 center ruler. I'm not going to worry about using my my T-square because I've got a pattern here that already has, horizontal guidelines basically because it's the check pattern. And we'll go ahead and just put these on. Do you want them spaced? I think the N is a little wider. Yeah, the N is wider than the F. I hate that. Sometimes is really frustrating to me because technically my U should have been over a little. So I'm going to move my U over because the U is technically not the true middle because the F is narrower than the N. All right. Okay, but I needed to say pumpkin. I messed around with fonts to be able to do this, and the one font I wanted to be able to just punch out and use was the letters were too wide. So I went back to my lovely default, which is the Creative Memories script stickers. These are brown, the chocolate ones. And I put them on my lovely Titletopia. I do that using the sticker sheet. I use my multi-purpose tool to lift them off and then lay them on here while my the Titletopia is on my silicone adhesive mat. And that way it's easy for me just to lift it up. And then what I'll do here is I am going to put it on here. I need to bring this down a little bit closer to me. I'm going to put on my glasses. All right. So that I can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to lay it on here. And it looks like I want to bring it down just a little bit. It's going to cover up it's going to sit on top of the fun. And it needs to be centered. There's roughly centered. I'm looking maybe for the tops of my letters to sit on there. And I think that looks good. So then what I'm going to do is hold this in place and push my letters down, my stickers. Then I'm going to pull up on the bottom and I'm going to kind of just gently fold it up and pull out my Titletopia. You kind of have to hold the letters in place, go slowly. And there we go. Got something behind my the letter P sticker picked up some debris, I think, off of my table. Want to get that out of there. All right. So it says pumpkin fun. You can see I need to, and it's pumpkin, I spelled that right? Pumpkin. I always have, do you ever have that? Like you look at it, pumpkin fun. That I think maybe I spelled it wrong. So next up here, I mentioned to you that we wanted to use, they have those little squares in there, right? And I liked the little squares. I thought they were super cute, but what am I going to do? I don't really have any embellishments. I'd need to dig through my fall embellishments. I could find stuff, but I do have a punch. I have a pumpkin vine punch, which is a delightful punch that doesn't get nearly as much use as it should. So what I did is I punched two of the pumpkins out of kind of a dark orange color, may have been like a burnt orange. It came with one of the Croptoberfests. And I went ahead and punched with the square punch, the 1 3/4 inch square punch. I punched out some white. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere these pumpkins on the white, and then I will mat this with something. I'm not sure what color. I needed to kind of set it on here and figure out what I wanted. Like sometimes I can't make color decisions until I see it down there, what it looks like. So I'm just going to put this on here. And then I will use my scissors to cut it apart or to cut off the excess. So there we go. My pumpkin's maybe not centered as much as it should have been. One more, I'm gonna make two of them. I'm just gonna have two pumpkins. I could have maybe done a pine cone. I mean, there's really not, there's pine cones here. There are pine trees. I've got a pine tree in my yard. I'm just waiting for it to dump the pine cones. Got two of them. We first moved into this house in June and showed up, and oh my gosh, there's so many pine needles all over the place. Obviously the tree had shed its pine needles to grow new pine needles in late May, early June. The pool was rather debris filled. Had to get that all cleaned up. All right. Now I am going to look at, I think I want to use, what do you guys think? One in purple I think I'm gonna do one in purple and one in blue. I feel those are two colors that are in my design, but um, I haven't really accented them in there any other way. I mean, yellow's kind of the same way, but I think I want to use the purple and I want to use the blue. So the purple, I'm going to trim this to this is a 1 3/4 inch square. I'm going to trim this. I'm going to start off at 2 1/4, give myself a full 1/4 of an inch all the way around. I'm going to use my personal trimmer for this, or the photo trimmer. So I said 2 1/4, right? Yeah, that's going to be a full 1/2 inch wider than it needs to be. I think that's going to be a little too big. The one thing to note with mats is even though I kind of have, you can see I have a big chunky mat. Let me bring this in here. I do have a big chunky, almost a 1/4 of an inch around these photos. The smaller your photos get, the smaller of the piece that you're matting, even if you're using the same size of mat, it looks so big compared to it looks too big. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim off 1/8 of an inch from two sides, bringing this down to 2 1/8 inch. And I think that's gonna look just a little bit better with this smaller uh, square embellishment that I'm creating. Yeah, that's gonna look more proportional. That's really the word we're going for there, is proportional. We want a chunky mat, but because I've got such a small thing here, I can't use the same size of a big chunky mat that I might use for a big photo. I need to just scale it down just a little bit because my piece here is so large. All right, so then I was gonna do, let's see, I wanted to do a blue, what is the opposite side of the blue? I've got to find, I know I have some of that blue. And I cut this this is the blue. I'm gonna trim this. I did it at 2 1/8. I'm gonna cut it to width at 2 1/8. Trim this to 2 1/8. And then my other pieces on there. That's gonna be really nice. I like that. I could come in if I wanted to add maybe like, some stitching detail. If you like that kind of stuff, you feel like you need to add a little bit more, you can add some of that pen detailed work. I am going to add a little bit here. I'm going to show you. I'm going to punch with some avocado paper. I'm going to bring in a little bit of green. I'm going to punch the pumpkins and I'm going to cut out the vine and the leaf. All right. So here we go. There's some avocado. I'm going to grab my pumpkin vine punch, and I just need to punch a couple of pumpkins. Just need some leaves. So there's one. I think I need to punch 3 times, and that should get me what I need for my pieces. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to punch, but I want to pretend that there's like the vine is overlapping the pumpkin here. So when I cut this, I need to kind of just imagine that the vine is continuing on. That's what I'm really just cutting the pumpkin out, but I want to give the illusion that the vine is still continuing. So you just play around with it a little bit. Okay. Clean up some of these harsher edges. I could have cut that off. Or I could have, it probably would have been faster if I had just cut out the pumpkin. Probably should have done that. But it's gonna work. It's gonna be just fine. I would probably say next time I would have put this down in green before and then put the pumpkin on. However, I will admit, I kind of like, I think I know what I'm gonna do too. Ooh, I like how I'm thinking about this. Okay, I like that my pumpkin feels like it's behind, it's not sitting on top of the greenery. It's a subtle effect, but see how it's sitting behind the vine. If I had done this the other way, my pumpkin would be sitting on top of it. So that did there. Now, what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna leave my leaves whole and I'm only gonna cut off the vine equal square with my outside mat. This way, I will actually leave the vine and the leaves on there. See, I leave the whole leaves on there. I'm going to do the same thing on this next piece. So just little fun details that you can have fun with, depending on how crafty you like to get. I don't think I would have necessarily thought I was going to go this route with it, but why not? Especially these punches like this, where you can actually, the border punches where you can really, if you want to cut things apart and get those individual embellishments or the individual punch pieces out of, like the pumpkin vine, you just cut the vine, leave the pumpkin, or cut pieces like that. So just cleaning this up a little bit. Put some adhesive on the back and then we'll be in business. Move all this to the side. I see a comment about using the stamp scissors, like some of those micro tip scissors. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, or are they talking about like the scissors that had the decorative edges? Sometimes those are nice too, and we could use the decorative edges. Sometimes feels a little quicker. So I think, yeah, I like that. So just so you guys can see, I'll show it on here because I won't be able to show you all the photos on here. And it's sometimes hard to get an idea like, okay, great, there's just some big brown mats on here. But I've got the photo of Cody here and has my husband and Cody here. And so I will have to arrange this so that my pieces don't overlap there. But you can start to see what it's going to look like when it has photos on here. I will probably come in, I think, and do a little bit of something with these boxes. I'm not sure, maybe just a little bit of pen detail. I could even come around the side. Sometimes I like that. We'll see that with some, that was really a big part of the birthday Jubilee project playbook, is that detail. And I know that there's been other blog posts, projects that have had that kind of that little pen work that is kind of just fun, just gives you a little bit of a frame around things. But all in all, that's what it's going to look like. We've got my pumpkin fun. I will need to come in here with a little bit of detail of like what was going on. I'm not sure. I'll have to figure out where I'm going to put that on there. I do want to have a little bit of journaling, or I could come in if I wanted to have just one box and I could replace one of these boxes with a little bit of a journaling box that just has really quickly what it was. I don't need a lot of explanation as to what the whole shindig was. It was, we were having fun with pumpkins at school. All right, so that is kind of where the layout's going. You can kind of get an idea there. And in terms of what's coming up with Creative Memories, they did have a preview Friday today. You saw that hopefully you saw Secret Box #1 is coming out, and I've already had people message me, do I know the theme? And no, I really don't. I'll find out the theme next week when I get the box. I never wait to open it. I always open it. I'm always excited to see. But they give us hints to the theme if you look at the marketing photo. So that photo that the graphic that I shared on my Facebook page that has kind of a navy background, it looks like it has like starburst or celestial type things on it, it usually is a hint. We can expect to see navy in there somewhere. We can expect to see maybe embellishments and so forth that have that twinkle detail. If I were to hazard a guess, my mind is going towards, like celestial or something like that, but it's a total guess. So don't base your ordering off of what I just said. It could be anything. But that's when you're looking at the graphic, look at those types of detail. Look at the colors, look at the little things, the artwork detail. That can sometimes give you a hint as to what the theme is going to be. Now, the other thing to note in here is every single one of the 4 secret boxes, the 4 standard secret boxes that are going to come out, they come out once a quarter. They will all have a Border Maker cartridge in them. So if you do not have the Border Maker system, you might want to go ahead and add that. If you are a Border Maker cartridge collector, then you might want all 4 of these boxes because each one of them will have a Border Maker cartridge in it. The other thing they're doing this year is there is going to be a 5th secret box, all right? Now that 5th secret box, in order to be eligible to order it, you will need to have purchased all 4 secret boxes to be eligible to order it. Now here's where it gets a little, you kind of have to work within the system. So Creative Memories is going to be able to keep track of your orders through their Creative Memories website. So when you log into your account and you order directly from Creative Memories, if you order all 4 secret boxes that way, they will know this at their end. And in December, I'm pretty certain it's December, you will have the opportunity to order that 5th secret box. Now, if you're not sure if you're going to order, or you're just not sure, and the secret box sells out, or you miss the opportunity to order it through creativememories.com and you decide to order it through your advisor, you order it afterwards through a resale, from somebody who's selling their extras, you're going to have to jump through a few more hoops in order to try to get that 5th secret box. So the best way to ensure that you can get all 5, if you want all 5, if you know you're going to want all 5, is to order your 4 secret boxes from Creative Memories directly. So that's just my tip to you. If you always order through your advisor directly, like they offer you, you put a big bundle together and that you show up at an event and you always order that way, then consistently order with your advisor. They will be able to help you at the end of the year get that 5th secret box. But this is not the year with your secret boxes to be sometimes ordering online, sometimes ordering in person with your advisor, and sometimes ordering afterwards with whoever is selling extras, if you want that final 5th secret box. All right. So reach out to me if you have questions on that. You reach out if you work with another advisor, reach out to them. We want to make sure that we don't want anybody getting to December and wanting that 5th secret box and finding out that it's going to be a little harder for them to get because of mixed ordering processes that they've gone through to get the other secret boxes. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so there's the secret boxes coming on Monday at I think it's $52.50 is the price of the box. And then there is the new Noteworthy Days Simple Page Kit number 2 is coming out, and that will be available on Monday to order. And they are bringing back the trio bundle of the first 3 Simple Page Kits as part of that bundle that has the first 3 Simple Page Kits. It has the advisor exclusive little sticker pack that goes with it, along with the project folder. They're like the simple folders that they're labeled 1 through 3. So you can basically put your kits in there as you're working your way through them. All right. And I think that's all. I mean, then we're going to be into, well, not quite February. We're getting there quickly. I will be back next week with another Scrapbook Live. We will do borders next week. I'm not sure what yet for borders. I need to comb through the blog and see if there's ones that look fun to do. I know we've had a lot of great tools and things to work with, but we'll find some. We'll find some projects to do. So I see Janet is asking if we know the price for all 4 secret boxes. I do not know. I do not know if Creative Memories is planning to keep them uniform throughout the year, or if they could vary in price. Historically, they have varied in price. That may be, they haven't committed, they have not, that question has been asked to them, and they have not given us a definitive answer. Part of it may be is some of that at their end, they're still working on. I'm sure Secret Box 1 is coming. I'm sure they've already got Secret Box 2 on order with the manufacturer, so they're going to get all those things in. We should see that maybe around June. Secret Box 3 typically is available to order sometime in August. We use it in the September virtual crop. So that box they're getting ready right now, if they haven't already, getting it out to the manufacturing process. And Secret Box 4 and 5 are probably like in these final planning stages, right? That's kind of how they work. So we will see if they have, I see Kimberly is asking, she's kind of asking an advisor level question. And this is, so if there are advisors out there, I know I have other advisors who follow. So here's the kind of the little hint with this. If whatever amount of boxes you order this time, you will be able to order, if you order 5 boxes now for your customers, you and your customers, and next Secret Box you order 6, the next Secret Box after that you order 7 because you're getting more people that are wanting to enjoy this, and then the 4th Secret Box you order maybe 6 again. Whatever your smallest order amount was is what you'll be able to order in December. So that's something to keep in mind and something to communicate with your customers. If I order 5 Secret Boxes every single time in December, I will be able to order 5 Secret Boxes. So if you think about it, going over those 4 different boxes, whatever your smallest order amount was, number of boxes, is what you'll be able to order in December. Creative Memories will be keeping track of that for us. So that's something to keep in mind is, if you have a customer who orders online with Creative Memories for Secret Box number 1, encourage them to continue doing that all the way through the end of the year. Same thing if they order directly through you. You want to be fairly consistent. That's probably the best key to do. However you order Secret Box number 1, be prepared to order it the same way all of the times. All right? Thanks, you guys. I will see you next week. I hope you have a fun weekend scrapping or whatever your projects are going to be. Hopefully it's warm out there for those of you who need a little increase in temperature, or at least maybe the sun will be shining. That is always the best part of winter. If it has to be cold, at least let's see the sun a little bit. I'll see y'all next week. Thanks for joining me.